Jimbo, Nick, well, here we are. We're back, live and in person. We're switching it up with Jimbo and Nick.
Yep.
Well, what did they say in the film, Field of Dreams? They said, build it and they will come. And we did, we did it. And last time, we got a load of clicks, a load of views, a load of comments and questions. And that was great. How did you find the last session? Did you enjoy it being in the studio?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's a breath of fresh air being here and doing something different. I think is the point. You've got to put yourself out there. If you don't do it, no one else is going to do it. So why not us?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's easier being in person, that's for sure, rather than being at the other end of a dodgy internet connection.
Yeah, it gives it a little bit more of a dimension, doesn't it, at the end of the day? So
hybrid podcasting doesn't work.
The echoes in the room, yeah. So if any of you didn't catch last time, we had George Barnes from Hamilton Barnes on last session. And George is very well networked and active in the recruitment specialist sector in IT and network sector. And it's always good, isn't it, to have a recruitment consultant on, isn't it? Because actually it was so good to roast him, wasn't it?
It's just an honest perspective, wasn't it? I'm just quite surprised we got to the end of it without actually offending too many people, I think. But it was good. He always gives an honest opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And we found someone that talks more than Jimbo, so
that's hard.
We had a lot of editing to do on that. So this month's session is all about observability of networks and applications. And to help us a little bit more, we have Rich Ferrier from AlgoSec.
Morning.
Hello, hi. How are you?
Morning, Rich.
Morning, Rich.
Yeah, good. So we'll come on to you a little bit later. We'll get you to make a little bit of an introduction. But before we start, as is usual, we get the two stooges, Jimbo and Nick, to give us an intro to themselves. So Jimbo, take it away. Just tell the audience that haven't been on before just a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm Managing Director at BestPath. I suppose we cover everything from people right the way through to technology and solutions. And that's it. That's all you're getting out of me.
Fantastic. It's good. Short and sweet. We like it. Nick.
Hi, I'm Nick Bridgman, Managing Director at BestPath. I'll try to probably elaborate a little bit more. We run a network consultancy business, so we have a pool of very skilled engineers doing a lot of kind of clever, important things, mostly around networking, data center, enterprise space at the minute. We touch on a few peripheral things, which hopefully we're going to drag Rich into at some point this morning, talking about some of the kind of day two operational observability kind of compliance kind of stuff. So yeah, we're multifaceted networking specialist company.
You sound like a cloud, Nick.
Sound like a cloud
Or a clown.
So just for today then, we have Rich from AlgoSec. So no need to be nervous, Rich. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and give us a bit of background on why you're here.
So long-term listener, first-time podcaster. Rich Ferrier, UK and I channel director for AlgoSec. Our tagline is, secure application connectivity anywhere. Been there for the last 5 years. Started off there in a technical role as one of the solutions engineers. Been in the industry, been in IT for about 35 years, been in the cyberspace for about 28 years. Most of that's technical, but now I've fancied the easy life, so I've switched over to the dark side, onto the channel sales side.
Nice.
Excellent. Well, it's good to have you here. Before we get into the main thrust of the podcast that we're going to be talking about today, last podcast we spoke about skills shortages. Have you got any view on that? Are you seeing that that's a big issue in your part of the industry?
So, AlgoSec in the UK is quite a small company, so we don't really see the recruitment process that much. But however, for the sort of solutions we're providing, it's actually a win for us. Because if you're getting trying to upskill a workforce, or you're getting your graduates or your young people in there, our platform can manage multiple devices on a network. So you only need to learn one. You don't have to learn all the third-party products, so you can get up to speed a lot quicker. We can also take away a lot of the mundane tasks and then use automation on that side of things. So in a way, a skill shortage for us could be a good thing.
Yeah, and I think we've touched on it before in some of our earlier podcasts. Things like super apps, like getting a one app that does multifaceted kind of options, I suppose.
The really awful saying that the one pane of glass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we call it a super app now.
Single
Get away from that. Single pane of glass.
Yeah, don't like that. I try and avoid that one, but I just throw that one in straight away.
Evolving terms in the industry. It was this, now it's that.
Got to coin them somewhere, mate.
So let's get on to the first question. Observability. are people really taking this seriously? Or do they pay it just a courtesy tick in a box just to keep compliance happy? What's the view?
I think my view is observability as a word is an absolute pain in the backside, because it can mean so much to so many different people, and I think that is the challenge with the word observability. For us, I think it's more about laying the foundations of what can become that observability piece as a whole, because for me, I see observability being end to end, from not just one platform, not one system, but a multitude of things that all come together to give you that data or that insight that allows you to do something different with it, right? And that's my view on it. And I think observability as a marketing term is very fluffy and very woolly in today's industry, I think, personally.
Yeah, it's in the box with sassy, isn't it? I think a lot of people see the word and see it from industry kind of analyst reports and that kind of stuff, and think, oh no, I need to be doing some of this, but I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things, and like James said, I think it means lots of different things to different people. You go and ask the app guys, they will say one thing. You go and ask the network guys, they say something else. You go and ask a different team, you get a third opinion. And I think it's just one of those things that I think will evolve over time. Lots of people would start to build the individual building blocks required to start on that journey. But at the minute, I think a lot of companies are paying particular attention to it, but still in the quite early phases, thinking, right, okay, well, I know I need to do this, and I know I need to do this, but how do I stitch it together? How do I correlate this data between different platforms? How do I make sure I'm getting all the information I need? And I think a lot of companies at the minute don't necessarily have the individual building blocks in place to play into that bigger picture.
Yeah, no, I'd agree.
And I think people have been doing it for a while. They haven't got there yet, most of them.
Yeah.
You could say looking at a SIM tool, that could be there. I think that a few years ago they didn't have a word for it.
Yep.
So they were doing it. It was moving on forward, but now they've got this sort of, I don't know, class it as a marketing term.
Yeah.
You can actually put some focus around it, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you're seeing other vendors in the space doing it as well. Look at Cisco with their full stack observability sort of messaging they get out there now. So yeah, it's definitely something that's coming along, but I think they've just put a name around it now.
Yeah.
When I first started in the industry, my first job was working for a company that did a lot of network monitoring, but not just network monitoring, but a lot of the kind of application monitoring as well. And what I see now in observability is just the same rebranded stuff from 2008. You know, the idea of monitoring end user experience and generating synthetic traffic and all this kind of stuff. Nothing's new. It's been around. It's just a bit more focused and maybe a bit more joined up and spanning different teams that it may not have done before, I think.
Yeah, and you say spanning different teams, and you say come back to yours. It means different things to different people. So it's 100%. Almost putting it in a sort of within tram lines, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the point, isn't it? Is that you've got to start somewhere, and I think whether you come from a networking space, server space, or security space, the starting point is different for everyone, as you say, and I think that plays a massive part in bringing it all together, because in a lot of businesses today, they're still siloed, so they're still doing things in isolation and not thinking about the broader picture, which is what observability for us, or for me, I think means, is that it's not just one thing. It's lots of different things that come together to give you that insight and that data or that domain knowledge of lots of different domains in a collective, rather than just in isolated like lumps, I suppose, if you want to call it that.
So, visibility versus observability. So when you talk about that in general, and a few people that we talk to, sometimes there's a bit of confusion there, isn't there? Some people think visibility is observability, vice versa. What are you seeing? Is there a confusion, or do you see them as two distinct things, and people aren't confusing them? What do you think?
I think it comes back to people's interpretation. I think our interpretation is that visibility is the enablement of data coming out of a solution or a platform or an area within an organisation. It's gaining the insights from stuff, right? We like you touched on it earlier on, Cisco and full stack observability, coming into day 2 operations, starting to take stuff out of the ASIC and stuff like that. Or if we start talking about SD-WAN, Thousand Eyes, products like that start to bring in the information for people to understand what's going on within that solution on that platform. And that for me is the foundational component, visibility. If you don't have insights to your solution at that level, then how can you expand on it to bring it all together to give you that end-to-end sort of insights or that end-to-end observability? And so for me, I see visibility as being a foundational block, which can be lots of different things, right? Depending on the silos or the business or the solution that you work in. For me, that's how I see it.
Yeah, agreed. I see it as a visibility as a component of which you'll have many, and you'll hopefully stitch them together with specific language business kind of requirements that you need to give you a bit more progress on your observability journey. It's not just something that you turn on, right? It's not like you go and I'll go and buy some of that and just crank it on.
Yeah.
I think every business is different in terms of what they want to get out, what they want to monitor. You know, A, the application's a bit different, but B, companies will have their own different kind of metrics and outcomes that they want to prove as that things are working okay. If that makes sense.
But it's also not one. It's not one thing, right? And I think this is where you've got to work, and which is why you're here today, Rich, to talk about, right? Is because I see this visibility piece growing into observability. It's not just one platform. You've got the vendor orientated enablement, but you've also got the enablement of products like AlgoSec that bring in the wider picture that maybe you wouldn't have seen from this, that and the other, but it's being able to bring other ecosystem partners into the mix to give you that full insights, because you can go and get one thing that just gives you what you need from the vendor, and that's generally solution specific. But if you're a small organization or a mid-sized organization, then actually you might not want to purchase the individual components because they become quite costly at scale, right? But that's where products like AlgoSec will sit across the board and maybe not give you as much data as maybe the vendor stuff does, but it gives you somewhere to start from to start getting insights from your network, right, or from your infrastructure. What do you think on that?
So I see visibility more as, I don't know, reactive, static, almost in a way. So you've got your view. Observability is more proactive.
Yes.
It's what I'm going to do with that visibility.
Yeah.
So I can give you one example from where we come from with the AlgoSec side of things. So we can give visibility of applications within the network, how they're aligned to the policy that's deployed across those security devices. So everyone can have their own set of applications. They can see exactly how it goes across the network. You take a firewall down for maintenance. You can do a what-if analysis. You suddenly get the observability about which applications will this affect, or which part of that application will that affect. You know, and then you can find out who the technical contacts are, get in touch with them beforehand, say like, you're going to lose DNS for the next hour or whatever. So you're not going to lose the whole application. But that's how I see the observability piece. Is what's happening at that time. Whereas visibility is pretty much all the time.
Yes, you need the ability to imply roughly what is going to happen. Right, you've got a lot of this data available. Obviously, the more invested you are in the journey, the more data you get. The more data you get, the more you need to correlate, but B, the more you can imply from that.
Yeah, and it's definitely observability is a multi-solution approach at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think it's key. I think it's interesting you said about the visibility is reactive and observability you see as being proactive, because I definitely think that is what we see when we start talking about the wider sort of integrations, when we start talking about automating networks and things like that being proactive in that closed loop automation piece, and we've touched on it before in lots of different ways, but that I think is where observability starts to play the part, and like you say, being proactive and having knowledge of maybe something that's coming down the line before you even get there, I think is the utopia where everyone gets to, and I suppose we've only got to look in the industry today. You start looking about AI and stuff like that. Everyone's talking about it, right? Everyone's looking at how it might either put people out of a job, augment their roles and stuff. The reality is it doesn't. For me, it just helps improve that ability to be more proactive, right? And I think if we start looking at those sorts of technologies in that space for that reason, then I think everyone gets a quick win out of it, I think.
So do you talk about it in its silo? Can you talk about it in its silo? Or is it you always have a conversation about observability with visibility? Or do you talk about them on their own? Where's the tie-up?
I think you have to talk about them together, really.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah, and it still goes back to what I said before, the reactive, proactive side of it. You've got to start with visibility.
Yes.
That's a keystone. So you've got to know what you've got out there. You can speak to some people. We say, okay, so what do you want to monitor? Where's your firewall? Where's your policies? Sometimes people haven't even got that list.
I was about to ask you that,
what's out
Rich.
there. They have no idea what.
Most conversations, if you say to someone, right, we've got this fancy stuff that can do a load of cool tricks, and you say, what do you want it to do? What's the normal response you get? Is it, I don't know.
Well, it can be. You tell me what it should do, or there'll be some specific need that they're looking for that. Whether it's an audit and compliance, whether it's a workflow, whether it's an automation, whether it is just visibility, or maybe they're moving to this whole observability piece.
Yep.
They'll start with one piece and then they'll suddenly go, oh, okay, it does that as well. So
now we've got that, can we do this?
Yeah. So they may start out on an audit and compliance route and then end up with full observability at the end of the day.
But I think you touched on a clever point there, Nick, or an important point there, is that requirements. I think that is probably one of the key things. Whether you're buying a tool off the shelf, whether you're doing it yourself, you need the requirements to work from, right? Because if you don't have those, then how do you expect any tool to give you
going
the
back
outcome,
to
right?
your services side of it, how many times do you go in somewhere to do a sort of a statement of work?
Yep.
How many times does that change?
Oh, massive.
On the fly. On the fly.
I don't think we've finished one that hasn't changed.
Once the reality kicks in of what is
But you actually end up with a better solution in that day.
Of course you do. Of course you do, right? But this is where you want your products or your services to add value to that process, right? And if you don't evolve with the nature of what the customer wants, then you end up being very stagnant and quickly.
And I suppose also someone like you know the kit probably better than the customer does anyway. Whatever you're installing, whatever's been configured, whatever's been deployed out there.
Agreed.
Because you're there breathing it.
Yeah, I think that's the point, isn't it? Is that we find that niche in that specialist area, and whereas some customers, don't get me wrong, we work with some customers and they've got a wealth of expertise and a wealth of knowledge, and their biggest problem is time, and that's where products like AlgoSec or Best Path come in, because we fix that time issue, right? But if you look at the smaller businesses, the mid-size down to the SMB, then it's skills, right? And I think, as you say, skills and the right product for the right reasons is what enables them to get the most from their infrastructure.
Yeah, I guess it's that certainty, isn't it? When you're talking to people, actually what they think they need, and you're actually coming in and you're saying, actually, this is how you have to. It's a fine line, isn't it? You don't want to be too cocky or too sure, but you want to say, look, in our considered opinion, now we've had a look, actually, you need to be also considering this, and this.
I'll stop wearing my cape into those businesses.
You're a solution superhero.
You've got to get the requirements, like even if it takes time to go and extract them, right?
Yeah.
It's like trying to ask the missus, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. Is that all right, fish and chips? No, I don't want fish and chips. You've got to, I don't know.
Great analogy.
Business requirements are so much easier than asking the missus what she wants for dinner. That is for sure. I'll tell you what, I can guarantee every listener has gone, I'd rather get business requirements than dinner.
So how do you think? Let's talk about digital transformation, and how's that changing the landscape and the need for observability?
Oh, a good one. Digital transformation.
Good one.
What does that mean to people?
I fucking hate that word.
It means lots of different things to lots of different people, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it is.
I used to work for a very large sort of global integrator back in the days of the HP days.
Yeah.
And basically we had this whole thing about digital transformation, and you could speak to these people that are doing digital transformation, and you could say, okay, can you sum up what it is in like 2 sentences? Every person gave a different answer to what it was. A lot of it just means we're just moving to the cloud, I suppose.
Yes.
Or moving back.
Or moving back these days, yeah.
You just got to remember the cloud is just somebody else's server.
Yeah, we were talking about that, weren't we? We were saying, well, where's that going to rest? And I think, Jimbo, you said, didn't you? You said you think it's going to be a mix of both.
Oh, it has to be a mixture
Yeah.
of both. In the longer term, for a lot of certainly for a lot of large businesses, I think it has to be a mixture of both. I can't see how it doesn't. But again, this is where, like you say, Rich, digital transformation as a term, is probably up there with observability,
yeah.
but at the same time, his observability, I think, has got something a bit more tangible out the back of it, because you know that you're striving for some end-to-end sort of information, whereas digital transformation can literally mean anything to anyone. Like you say, it can mean going to the cloud for one business and putting it into Terraform like plans and stuff like that, or it can mean moving to an SDN hybrid cloud implementation on-prem, and I think that's it. All comes down to it, but at the end of the day, I see digital transformation as how the end user interacts with IT. That it's got nothing to do with how the IT business does it. It's how the user interacts with it.
Business agility behind that as well.
Yeah.
You know, deploying your apps faster. I don't know, just getting more for your money, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
But going, whatever, regardless of what the people interpret that digital transformation phrase as, there's a lot of stuff going on generally in IT at the minute, within specifically kind of networking and security, right? You look at a lot of the work that we've been involved with. Companies are doing a lot of stuff, and that means that infrastructure footprint is expanded massively. They may be going from an old platform to a new one, extending out to the cloud, doing this, doing that, doing some automation here, whatever. But those projects take time. In my kind of opinion at the minute, whilst those kind of, I don't want to use the term migrations, but that kind of journey is going on and the footprint is massively expanded, you've got much more of a emphasis and requirements to have the data telling you what is going on at that point in time. Because it could mean that one part of the app has been moved to the public cloud, part of it is still on-prem, you've got some extra security appliances or firewalls, whatever, somewhere whilst this project is being undertaken. And different people within the company know different parts of it. But you have not always got some tooling to give you a definitive answer of what's going on at that point in time. And
this is where you come back to visibility.
Why come back to visibility? Yeah. And I think it's key, because whilst those projects are going on, you know, there's generally a bit of risk to the business because stuff is all over the place.
Yeah.
So the emphasis and the requirements for visibility and observability at that point in time, and being able to not necessarily dumb it down, but consolidate the data so that you easily understand what's going on at that point in time.
But I think you do need to dumb it down. When you start talking about ops and stuff like that, and some of the more junior guys that are going to be picking up the day-to-day support aspect of it, I think you do have to try and dumb it down in some instances, because they're not as skilled and they're not as knowledgeable on the infrastructure as it's grown. And I think that's where the visibility and the insights is paramount, especially in that transition.
But you don't want skilled people doing that stuff, do you?
No,
you want the ability to kind of have the skilled people do more clever stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So from an AlgoSec perspective, Rich, do you have a lot of customers come in with to say, we want visibility with one specific vendor? Do they want you to kind of expect kind of end-to-end stitching across whole different platforms? What typical requirements people come in for? Obviously, the compliance of an application is critical, especially if people are kind of audited and regulated and so on. But do you see people with a massive mix of different vendors within their kind of environments that find it difficult to get that data out themselves? If that makes sense?
Kind of, yeah. So ideal for us is someone with a multi-vendor environment. You know, much more value comes out of it. If you've only got 20 Fortinet firewalls and that's all you're monitoring, well, there's a management platform for that kind of thing. Okay, we can put extra layers on top of that, but to get more value, if you've got a multi-vendor environment, you've got cloud, you've got your on-prem. If you can map out for the visibility, where your applications are, as you're saying, if you're going to move those applications, whether you're moving data centers, whether you're just upgrading, whether you're moving to the cloud, if you can pick up those sort of application flows and take them with them, A, the application continues to work, and B, hopefully you've got round the security aspect of have I left the door open somewhere?
Yeah, but you can discover apps as well, though,
we can
right?
we can discover apps. Yeah, sit and look
I'll tell you, that's
network.
probably 90% of the conversations we have, isn't it? Is that when you go into a customer and in the first question you ask, well, what sort of apps you got running? Oh, I haven't got a clue.
Yeah,
and you're like, come on, like. But it's as you touched on it earlier on. It's the fact that they've grown organically over time. People have left, the knowledge has gone with them, and stuff like that. So I think that's important, right? And I think being able to know what's going across the network is massively important for any migrational, transitional, any sort of visibility. That stuff's important.
But this works at both ends of the kind of journey, like in terms of deploying configuration. So if you've got a whole load of different vendors in your estate, you say you've got some checkpoint firewalls, some Fortinet firewalls, whatever they are, you've got the same issue of rendering that data so it's consistent from a visibility perspective, but also being deployed in the first time around. So like you never really want your configuration, your intent stored in a vendor specific language, do you?
Well, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
No, you want that abstracted into something that you can swap out any checkpoint firewall or Fortinet firewall or whatever. So you've got the same problem going in from a provisioning perspective as you have from a normalize it and render perspective.
And then the one on top of that is the decommissioning side. So when you remove an app, you should be looking at removing whatever policy you put in for that app.
Yeah.
How often do you ever see that done?
Well, that's what we're here for. You know?
I would say that's something that not a lot of people do.
Yeah, but you say normalization as well within those different vendors. So if you can put an application against different vendors, just on a single pane of glass.
Hey, single lens. Go on with those. Continue.
It's only taking 30 minutes.
So add the business application, add the business criticality to it as well, and have that all on one screen. Yeah, you're going some way towards it. Then when you start pulling in other information into those platforms as well, like the vulnerability data, and you can actually look at an application as a whole. So you're not just looking at a server and going, like, this server's got certain vulnerabilities on it. You're actually looking at the application as a whole. It could be 20 servers made up.
Yeah.
You know that they're all being scanned, and B, then you can get this whole sort of picture of where the application is. And then you can push that back to the application owner to fix it almost. It then doesn't become one of the support the networks or the security team support issues. It's the onus is back on the application owner.
The app guys never want the network people to be the bottleneck, do they? But it's taking time for a lot of companies to move towards that mentality of offloading the responsibility for the application from a network perspective to the apps guys. Normally, for years and years, it's always been, go and ask the firewall guys and they will go and open up a port for you. But that shouldn't be.
And that's going back to visibilities again. If you can map the application for the network, then the application owners don't actually have to know what the network looks like as such.
No, correct.
They can ask for their change.
Yeah.
They, from server A to my database back end, they don't. It's in their language. They don't care.
Yeah.
The network team obviously then get their version of it.
Yep.
And then that goes to the security team to say, yeah, that's okay, and off it goes.
Yeah, and I think that's important, right? Because that's the enablement piece that I find is what drives towards that digital transformation, right? Is if you can take a silo and you can enable someone else around you, and because I suppose when we look at the silos within the business, whether you're a network, whether you're security, you as a network silo, you've got to see security as an end user or a consumer of your product, right? And the same goes on the security side. If you're in security, you've got to see networks as a consumer of your product. And I think this is where how the user interacts with the environment as a whole is what I see as being digital transformation.
What you need is one portal to bring them all together.
Exactly.
I can help you.
Oh, I'm leaning on that.
But you make it sound like digital transformation is just the network guys offloading all their tasks.
It is, mate.
Automate it. No, there you go.
But okay, so that utopia that you talk about, that in reality, it's not like that, is it? I mean, when you get brought in, your initial conversations with people, they paint one picture, and then the reality surely must be actually right. Okay, you've missed this, and this.
I call this the transparent firewall, right? Because when you go into a customer's business, sorry, all customers out there, but you go in and you uncover the shit that's hiding underneath, right? Sure. And I think everyone paints a good picture on the outside, but when you roll back the covers and you have actually look under the hood, as Nick alluded to earlier on, people aren't doing decom, right? People aren't keeping their servers up to date, their network up to date. They're not. There's not a lot of people out there, I think, can hand and heart say they take care of this stuff.
It's because it's not sexy work.
No, it's not
sexy work. And if they want it to work, they just go with any rule. Boom, there you go. All works fine.
and they forget the log statement. Yeah,
So
we've been
is there that need? Is there an almost like a need for an independent body to sort of go in and give a due diligence and
Well,
a sort
there
of a
is.
report to say, look, I know this is exactly the state of the nation. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
if
there is.
if people
You've
like that
got
are in
the
industry.
was it NSC, whatever it is. I can't remember. Like the National Crime.
No, or the
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called, but it starts with N.
Right.
But they give a
NCA.
load. Yeah, they give a load of info online and stuff about vulnerability and how you should do things and stuff like that. But I suppose it also comes down to the type of business, because I suppose regulatory compliance is also there to help find that stuff out, right?
Back to the compliance stuff, which is probably something that you might see. Do you see the compliance stuff being done reactively? Oh, we've got an auditor coming in a month, get the house in order, or do you see people
again,
do
have
it?
I got a solution for you? I mean, we talk about continuous compliance.
Yeah.
So
So I don't. A bit of a loaded question, really.
Yeah.
I don't see it done actively. Everyone normally
No,
it's like
it's
auditors coming in,
quick run round like
work
headless
24
chickens.
hours a day, do what you need to do
Yeah.
to keep them happy.
So yeah, and that's where we see a lot of our business come from, actually, because it can be just as easy as just generating a report. Okay, that report might tell them they've got loads of things to fix, which they've still got to get fixed before the auditor comes in, but at least they're getting
At least you know where to look.
a step
yeah.
up and going. But continuous compliance. They can have their little dashboards running all the time. They can see, graphs just going up and up and up as the
Yeah.
posture improves and so forth. And you can even do like a RAG status on that as well. And you could feed that into the sort of the old Archers of the world, whatever those sort of platforms now as well, to give that C-level view of it as well, so they know it's all going on. But yeah, it's all about easing that side of it. But yes. That's why a lot of people come to us in the first place, because the auditors are coming.
So, Rich, this is a question from you, and so obviously from your side, as a vendor with a mission statement to secure application connectivity anywhere,
Yeah.
what's your biggest challenges?
Biggest challenges.
Yeah, some of the things that really get in the way when you can see the answer in a future state, but what gets in the way of you doing what you need to do?
A lot of things we've already talked about.
Yeah.
The silos of teams. Everyone's got their own agenda. Someone sees like the automation tool coming in and they're going, "Oh, hang on a minute, is that my job on the line?" No.
Yeah.
We're just making things easier. We're taking away the mundane tasks, letting you to improve and build your skills and do better things.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at the security guys, the security teams, and they're like, well, it's another tool type use. And but we're helping you because we're giving you context around it and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's more about managing those challenges, and we can do most of that. Knowing what people have actually got, as we said earlier, that's a big challenge.
Yeah.
So they'll go, yeah, that's fine. We'll just buy, get enough to cover our 20 devices, and then we go in there and start discovering. And it's like, well, you've got 60 odd devices here on the network. So,
Yeah.
budget goes back to sometimes, but. And again, the applications as well, they haven't got a clue, really, some of those legacy applications that are running around in there. And then you also get the person that's got the device you've never heard of.
From some rogue salesman in Kazakhstan.
Well, that's it, yeah. It's spelt slightly different to the one you used to know, sort of thing.
Huawei. No, I'm joking.
Sorry,
So
China, if you're listening.
that can always be a challenge. And then also that's a challenge when they say, well, and that's fact, we've got 10 of them. So it's, but sometimes, as you said at the start, build it and they will come. So it's looking at, if it does get popular, you just build into it and build that sort of capability around it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, interesting that the people thing comes in at play there. How people behave in protectionism of their jobs.
Oh,
and things
huge
like
protection
that.
of jobs.
Yeah.
Side of things. Or
Yeah, people don't like change, do
Not
they?
necessarily their jobs, but it's my kingdom, and I don't want to let anyone in to see what I'm doing.
But they'll all happily go and type it in Chat GPT and then
Yeah.
post it on LinkedIn, so it's fine. So,
So I always like to ask this question, and be careful what you say. Obviously, don't mention any clients here. But what are the horror stories? Where have you seen some real humdingers where you think, oh my God, this is a nightmare?
I never see any,
it's all good. It's all rosy.
Right, turn the recording equipment off, people.
Again, I think it's expectation sometimes.
Oh, right, okay.
Is someone not any tool out there, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
That goes back to the requirements, right?
It goes back to the
You always
requirements, yes.
people are always going to want success criteria, aren't they?
Yeah.
To say, right, okay, your product's coming in.
If it's a woolly success criteria, you're going to end up with a nightmare story.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
But I think that's the same across the board. I don't whether it's any
product,
tool, right?
any tool, any platform.
The same could be said for going for public cloud, right? A lot of people go there because it's the thing to do, but they don't actually have any requirements out the back of it. And when they don't succeed, well, they don't know they've never succeeded because they've never set something outright from the outset to aim to achieve. Right?
They don't know what they can achieve.
Yeah.
So one of the things we were talking about the other day was around network migration, and obviously that's got to be a killer when setting up observability tools. So what are the 3 points you would focus on? So we've got that network migration. What are the real 3 points you can say? Right, actually, we've got to get those bricks in order on top of each other to make sure we've got a really
again, I think we
solid structure.
said all three of those again. You've got to know what you got.
Yep.
Visibility side of it. You've got to know what you want to do.
Yep.
Your requirements. And then the third thing is actually building a great team around it.
Yep.
To deploy it.
Yeah.
Now whether that's internal and using external, whether that's having a good project manager, and then just sticking to your plan, but also having your plan flexible enough that you can change it if you need to. But you've again all your guardrails in place to be able to do that.
I think the only other thing I'd add to that is often a lot of companies will realise the importance of this after something bad's happened.
Yes.
Right. And so the only other thing I would add would be to try and bring those considerations forward. So if you're going to do a major project, make sure you got the visibility before you start the project. It's not, I'm going to start the project. Oh shit, something's happened. Like we've been having, I don't know, whatever. Cyber's been compromised or a network outage on a weekend. Now all of a sudden, I've made the change. Now all of a sudden, there's a load of budget down the back of the sofa. I'm going to go and do some fancy stuff with it.
That does happen, though.
It happens all the time.
That is where funding comes from, the back of the sofa.
Especially when there's been a breach. You're amazing how quickly you can get the purchase order signed off on that. So.
Yeah, we've seen it all the time. £500,000, £1 million overnight has occurred, or just, I don't know.
That was because of Nick.
So when you hear it on the news, but when you hear it on the news, do you double your prices? All of a sudden you
double your prices. You can't say that.
I just wonder from your side if it was just a question.
Ambulance chasing.
This podcast could be getting a little bit too enlightening for the people
consumer.
Listening. Yeah,
I'm sure you don't.
absolutely.
On-demand pricing, we call it.
Very diligent.
Well, it's like Uber then, isn't it? Really?
It's like Uber, when it's raining, double the price.
I don't think a lot of companies realise the importance of it, or don't pay. Maybe they do, but pass a blind eye to it because they just want stuff to happen quickly. Right? A lot of key projects always have strict deadlines, and people sometimes gamble a little bit, thinking, do you know what?
A lot of people don't factor in the fact that they've got to speak to so many other people to get things done.
Yeah.
So whether that's an ISP, whether that's someone just running a managed service side of it, and something during that project will suddenly just pop up that they never even thought about as well. So that's a huge sort of issue.
Yeah, you say strict, I say unrealistic, but there's
so
a difference.
always got to put your little bit of fat in there, haven't you?
Yeah.
So we were talking the other day, it was on the back end of an article, and it was saying that IT managers in general, they know what they want, but the article was talking about budget versus security versus ROI is getting in the way. And it's sort of clouding that objective of what they've got to try and do. Is that an issue? Is that fogging of almost all those considerations getting in the way to say, actually, let's park that because what we've got to do is this.
I think when you put all those three together, it comes back down to hidden costs which people can't track, right? Because the ROI, if you go and get a product in or you go and get service in to do something, actually the ROI is actually that your staff might be having more time to be more proactive to fix things. But that is something that never gets seen, because once you've got staff employed and once you've got people there, it's a hidden benefit, right? It's something off the back of it, but there's no quantifiable evidence to say, well, I've got this much back from installing a tool, installing a service, or whatever it might be. It's that quantifiable thing. I think when we talk about vulnerabilities or product-centric or service-centric offerings, whether it's SLAs or anything like that, it's a lot easier to quantify the ROI on that service because you've got some metrics, you've got some SLAs around it. So I think it does depend on the aspect that you're trying to get out of it.
Can you also quantify the cost of doing nothing to go against it?
Well, this is exactly it.
And what is that cost? I mean, again, it's another sort of a...
that could be anything. That could be huge. It could be nothing, or it could be your reputation, your brand.
Exactly. But they're all for a lot of people, they're not quantifiable in terms of putting a number on it, and some people will put a number on it, but actually, is that number realistic, or is it way undervalued? Because I think we touched on one in our earlier podcast about, I think, what was it? The average cost of downtime is something like $5 million or something, wasn't it? I think so. Yeah,
some
so
of those big retail
Yeah,
players.
Again, I
have
suppose
massive
it
impact.
depends which company you are as well.
exactly. Yeah.
If you're the little grocery store at the corner, it's not going to be that much, is it?
Nah.
So when all
Packet
those
of
things,
crisps.
so when all those things get in the way, are people buying the wrong products? Are they sort of buying short-term fixed products, and they're sort of just patching the problem, or they think, actually, we won't go and spend the big bucks, we'll just do something just to get us through? Are we seeing that in the market?
I see people buy the right products, but they don't invest the time to get the most value out of them.
I'd agree with that.
I don't want to do you a disservice, Rich, but
No, I'd agree with that.
but it's people think, oh, I tell you what, I want some stuff, I'm going to go and buy a thing, and they'll buy the thing. But a lot of times, whether it's new network hardware or whatever it is, or the solutions always take some time to develop to make the most business value to that specific customer. And I think a lot of companies will go and buy stuff, thinking that if they buy stuff, it's like a gym membership. People go and buy a gym membership. Oh, I'm healthy now. Well, no, you still got to go to the gym and use it.
It's very true. Very true.
It's true, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So we'll see people buy our product, and they're ending up just using the audit compliance, and there's so much more they could be using.
You need to
But
dedicate
sometimes
time.
it's time.
Time and effort and resource to get the most
And they're going to
out
get
of
that
it.
back, fourfold.
Yeah, but
Easy.
the other area I see people falling foul of is proof of concepts, because it comes back down to requirements. People will get a solution or a vendor in or a service in, and they'll do a proof of concept, but they don't see the value from the proof of concept, and they write that product off. But actually, how much value can you get out of a product in 2 weeks? Or
on such a small
scale? That's exactly it. Because
you're keeping your criteria tight. You're
Exactly,
keeping
yeah.
you're keeping your reach of where you're looking at quite tight, and he's not seeing the whole thing.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
for some people, that's all they want to see. So it does that job. Yes.
yes,
And then they don't get the value of actually using the tool.
correct.
or
They don't
platform.
look at
its
the
full
tool and go, right, well, actually,
capability.
the tool can do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to do a proof of concept for X, Y, Z. Like you say, they just do a proof of concept for X, and then they go, okay, the product fits the purpose, but actually quite expensive for just doing X, but it can do so much more.
Or people find it too hard.
Yeah.
So take the AlgoSec for application security awareness type thing. The whole thing there. If people spend the time, doing the application discovery.
Yeah.
Now in a greenfield site, easy, because they're building them, they're going straight in, perfect. All the documentation's done, everything.
Yeah.
It's a living document as well with all the connectivity requirements in it. You go into a company where they've got 100 applications. They've got to have the right tools or the right mindset in place to be actually discover those applications.
Yep.
So whether that's using a third party like Garlic or a Lumio or a secure workload and pulling that information into a tool like ours, or actually using ours and sitting there doing packet sniffs of the network to build it up, it takes time. Yes. And we tell people that we're not just a one hit button and it just works.
No, but people
And
do expect that, right?
People do expect that. Yeah. And so we're always very careful about saying, no, you've got to spend some time doing this, because when you spend the time, you will get your reward.
Yes. Yeah, agreed.
So why AlgoSec then? What's different about you guys? I mean, obviously
They have me working for them.
ego alert, everybody. Ego alert.
It comes in wearing a cape.
Not all heroes wear capes, mate.
Yeah. So where's your marginal gain? Where's that marginal difference in
Ours is in the marketplace.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it is around application discovery, to be
Okay.
honest. We've got it built into the product. We want to use it. It can do the job it says it does, and pull that information in.
Yeah.
It's another step nearer to your full observability, I suppose. At the end of the day.
And to add to that, I think people will be surprised how many applications they actually have running in their environment.
Yeah.
When they fire up something that can give them an insight to this, I think a lot of people would be very surprised at actually how many applications they've got
when they lift the
traversing.
lid?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
and have a look. Yeah.
And even they've got lots of. The idea is like start with your critical ones, get those
Yes.
onboarded first
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. Get your most important ones done first,
Yep.
and then continue to use the tool to bring the rest across as
Yeah.
well.
Because they'll all be using the critical one
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form.
Do you see many organisations which know what those critical apps are? Because a lot of the time, we don't always see it. There may be a few small kind of business units that do, but generally, in terms of having things nicely catalogued to say, we know what this app is, this is our main revenue generating app, these are the other ones that we don't care as much about. this is nicely documented and whatever, or would you feel it's always a bit more show and tell? You can say, look what we've discovered, and they've gone, all right, yeah, we didn't realise that was the case.
Yeah, again, I think it is depending on the size of the company you're looking at, and whether they've got in-house applications that they're developing as well, and who you're talking to really, because we could be talking to the network guy and he thinks he knows what applications are out there. Then you go and speak to somebody in the application development thing. They go, no, we've got lots more than that.
Yeah,
they just don't know about it.
But I think also comes back down to time, how long the application's been there. But I also think that a lot of people know the key applications, but they probably don't understand how they work.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm saying. Get the key ones in,
Yeah.
then you've got time to then bring in the rest as well, the ones that you maybe didn't know about.
Then you realise that server in that dev environment is running all your production apps.
Going back to horror stories.
Yeah.
It could have been one of the two of those, but I didn't want to just in case I mentioned any names. But
Yeah, I've seen that before.
So let's think about this. We're here in 3 or 5 years' time. It's like EastEnders. We're like a rolling soap bus.
I hope not.
Like, okay.
No, I'm joking.
We're here in 3 years' time. What's it going to look like? Where's the future state? Where is all this going? And let me throw in something else there. What's going to be the impact of AI? Is that going to be something that's going to have a big impact onto this? But, where should everybody be keeping their focus? Where's this all going?
Well, I think in 3 to 5 years' time, there's going to be a bit of, even now, and probably a good question for you in a second, Rich, but I think a lot of people think that they can do a lot of this stuff themselves cheaper. And so I guess that is probably... I suppose the world of networking we touched on last time is expanding. It's only going to get more open, I suppose, from a point of view in terms of what people can see and what people can do, because people don't necessarily want to pay for everything. A lot of people now believe that a lot of this stuff should be there from the outset, right? So I think that's probably something that's going to change for a lot of vendors over the next few years. Is they're going to have to give way more insights to products and services. But I also think there's going to be a lot of people that want to try and rebuild an AlgoSec themselves, right? And do it themselves. But I would question whether that is... You've
got the hidden costs there, the support, the knowledge. Someone leaves, it's gone. There's no one to back them up.
Correct.
Hidden costs is a big one there.
Yeah.
I think the thing I would add to that is giving... apps guys want to know how their app's running without having to kind of phone someone up to ask for a report, right? All of this data needs to be made available to the people that need it to take a lot of the IT bottleneck out of the business. Yeah. Apps guys need to go in and go, right, I know my apps is running perfectly because I'm getting all the data from whatever, the compute guys, the network guys, ABC, whoever it is, and they should be able to get that data themselves, right? Yeah. It's like McDonald's.
Oh, I like McDonald's.
McBroken.com. Anyone been there? There's a website online where you can track the availability of every McDonald's ice cream machine
and milkshake
in the country or
in
the world.
Country,
If I hadn't known that, because I used to turn up so many times and they go, no thick shakes today.
I used it last night, got a nice chocky milkshake.
But that's
it's the one machine that always goes wrong, and if you know which one's working, that's perfect.
You don't want to rock up at the store or the drive-through or whatever, and they go, no, we've got no McFlurries today.
They look at me weird when I've done that before, and I've gone in until I found McBroken.com. I used to go in, they say, got a milkshake? No, not got a milkshake. And I used to sit in the drive-through and go all the way through, because obviously once you're in there, they think they've got a captive audience. But I will refuse to be the captive audience. And they say, what else would you like? Nothing. and I get to win. I say, I've not ordered anything, so I'll just sit in the queue and get out, because I'm quite...
But
it's
making that data available, and that could be anything. That could be disabled lifts at a train station, right? Yeah. It could be the availability of anything, because you don't want to be in certain scenarios where you're dependent on that state being available and getting there and your day going tits up, because it's not.
So you're basically saying that don't schedule a change. Nick should never schedule a change if the ice cream machine doesn't work at the local McDonald's, because we know that it's going to break.
Yeah, basically.
But I mean, I don't know. Let's think about a future state of visualization. Are people going to be putting headsets on, and are they going to be able to see different zones of data? And they're going to be saying, right, okay, I've got a problem over here. And it's, like we see in those real sci-fi movies.
I've got a picture for that. No, I'm joking. We had Nick doing his CCIE lab. Do you remember when we went to Barcelona, 2018? You did the virtualized
That was all
CCIE
augmented
lab.
reality,
Yeah, it
wasn't
was.
it, at the time? There was the CCIE lab, there's probably a lot of people obviously know what it is, but you probably don't. It's a long 8-hour lab, and you used to include physical elements, doesn't it anymore, and you had to go and do some networking stuff. But Cisco were looking a while back about how they use new technologies to abstract that exam into a new format. And it was all kind of VR and augmented reality. You had this headset on, and you were basically the router. Like, packet would come in, and you had to make decisions about. You look at the destination
it's like
address,
a
figure out what
cube.
port
You'd have to flick it around, and it had
Were you being
source,
filmed while you're doing all this
destination.
as
No,
well?
I've got a picture of him. But it basically had like a cube, and you had like source, destination, like port, and stuff like that. And you had to work it out, and then based on like the route map, you had to put it into whichever bin.
You had little two controllers, and
yeah.
you'd be in the data center, like racking a switch, but it was actually like Jimbo just in Barcelona with a headset on. It was a bit weird.
Well, it's like that film Minority Report, isn't it?
Yes.
And, you know, how far ahead of the time was that, where we have these special like lenses, and we look at certain ads, and they're coming to life. You know, is that going to be the future of data? You're going to be able to look at a rack, and you're going to see actually that one over there is not configured or working properly, or we've got all sorts of problems. I don't know.
I hope not, because that's not my. It's not where I want to be. Looking at a rack and seeing it pop out at you. Like, hey,
I mean,
I want it in the rack.
It sounds cool, but does it actually solve anything?
No, it doesn't. No.
You know, I think moving forward, I think in the short term anyway, you'll just see a lot more interoperability between products. I think people opening up a lot more now with APIs and so forth.
Yeah.
I think that's where we're going at the moment, to actually, you know, a solution becomes part of a bigger solution type stuff. And then, you know, you talk about the AI stuff. Do we trust that? I mean, it's great for certain things, and I've used it, you know, to write the odd card to someone for birthdays and stuff like that. But would you like to be, you know, flying a plane that's been run by AI? And I told you that story the other day. They got the autonomous buses in Scotland now, in one area in Scotland.
Yes.
And normally you have a bus driver. You get on the bus, you pay your money, you go and take a seat. Yeah. So this is the real solution they've come up with now. They've got a self-driving bus that requires someone to sit and watch the self-driving bus, and then somebody standing on the bus doing the tickets. So they've gone from one person to two people because of this sort of AI or intelligent automation, as we call it. But
I think there's a big, as you point out there, Rich, there's a big thing on trust as we move into the future. You've got to start putting some trust in, and historically, that's not what businesses have had in their IT, is the trust and the confidence. And I think you've got to build on that confidence, and that means being more proactive. You have to be more proactive to get more confidence, and I think that for us as a business is what needs to change in the industry as a whole. You've got to get more confidence to build that trust.
If you can trust the data, then AI, I think, is brilliant.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
You know, another example: trying to book a holiday. I'm going to Lindos for a week. Give me the 6-day itinerary. The 6 of us go, and I want to see things to see, where to eat, give me a price, put it on a table format. Brilliant. It all came back, all tablised. So the first restaurant review I looked at closed down because of COVID. It's like COVID. So
as long as you don't say the dates, because you're getting burgled once this goes live.
Yeah, and just thinking about people like Cisco and some of their products and things like that, do you get to see their sort of future roadmap? Are you seeing what they're doing and then how that's going to impact what you're doing with regard to that sort of observability and things like that? Are you getting the roadmap from what they're thinking? Because it's great. We've just hypothesised a little bit about what we think the future is going to be, but
really.
is that are they sharing that with you as well?
They share as much as they know.
At a nice high level, I suppose.
Well, they've got to be a little bit.
Well, you've got things like Cisco Live.
I say you have to wait until the actual exhibitions come around
yeah.
to see it, don't you?
Yeah, but I think you're only as good as the minds that are there that are generating it. So, and these vendors have got some fantastic minds in there, but at the same time is that they can only release what's tangible right now, right? And I think if you look at a lot of businesses in that space, they must be looking,
of course,
that far ahead, 10 years ahead. Like I remember reading an article about predictive internet and stuff like that, and that kind of stuff I think is going to play massive parts. But at the same time is that we're not ready for it as an industry. The industry's not ready for it.
We're still trying to manage what we're doing right now.
Exactly. Exactly.
And we rely on short-term roadmap.
Yeah.
Because obviously, vendors that we support are bringing out new features. Yeah. So
we've got quickly, don't
so
they?
we've got to get to those new features as quick as possible because the customers are asking for them straight away. So again, so the near term, definitely get that roadmap view. But as I say, the long term, sort of comes in cycles, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
it does. It does. I agree.
Well, fantastic, guys. And I've really enjoyed that. It's been quite insightful. I actually thought this was going to be a short podcast.
it was.
I actually thought that we'd actually dry up with things to talk about. So that was absolutely fantastic. Rich, thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for having
It's
me.
been an absolute pleasure.
I'll give you 2 rings when I get home, don't worry.
You are now going to be the most famous person in your business after we promote this across LinkedIn and the internet and everything. Jimbo, Nick, you've been absolutely great as well. So thank you very much. Next time out, for all those listening, we're going to be talking about the foundation of SASE, and we'll see what we can drum up and talk about on that side. So to everybody out there, everybody listening, have a great month, and we'll catch up with you next time.
Yep.
Thanks
Cheers.
all.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.